Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're joining. If you're going to get here live, welcome. We'll have a little chat. If you're watching on replay, totally get it. And I'm grateful for this forum that we can do that. I'm Bev Hill with Bev Hill Arts and Crafts. And I'm just going to find my live video if I can. There it is. Okay. This looks pretty good. So I was painting these today, and I counted up. I'm making them for a specific project for Christmas. And I have to do about 8 more. Actually 6, but I've got 8 ready to go because it takes me a little while to kind of get in the flow of things. So if you can tell, these were my first 2, and I get looser or more relaxed as time goes on, and I let the paint do the job. The other thing I will tell you is that I tried to eyeball the middle, and on a couple I had to cut them down because I did not hit the middle very well at all. This one specifically. This was an early one also. And so I resorted to measuring and putting a little dot in the middle, and then punching my hole and putting in my, it's not a brad, what is it, eyelet. So if you have a crocodile, I just punched my hole and put a little eyelet there. Hi, Diana. You ready to do some watercoloring? I've got a group of ladies that I know, and I try to make them a little something every year. And so this time I thought I would try to make bookmarks. And, you know, with any project in your head, you live and learn. So this was exactly that. I cut my corners at first, and I didn't like that with this size. This paper is Dina Wakely's heavyweight watercolor. It comes in 8 by 10, so I just left the 8 length, and then I cut it in 2.5 increments. So these are 2.5 by 8. I think it's a fairly good size bookmark, not too big, not too small. So it'll hold some of my florals. And then I ordered a bunch of these for different bookmarks. I still have some left, so I'll throw these in. So I have a few that I finished up. Oh, the other thing I wanted to show you that I did, on all of these, I rubbed, after it was all done, I rubbed this Dorland's Wax Medium. So these are now waterproof. So if something, you know, if it was in their book and something dripped on it, it's not going to activate that watercolor paint underneath. So that was my least favorite of things to do, was to wipe on this wax and then buff it off with a paper towel. But I think it'll add, you know, a little bit of longevity. These are not meant to be archival or to last forever and ever, but just so you know what's in my head. All right, so I'm going to scoop these guys up. Oh, wait, one more thing I want to show you. It's a process, right? So look at all the different colored backgrounds. And it turns out that I like neutral backgrounds the best. So when I was cleaning up and realizing I needed to do 8 more of these, I took my dirty water from the painting earlier, and I just painted all of these in a rectangle in the dirty water. And so the fun thing about it is because I did do some painting with gold at the bottom, that gold settled down in to this water cup. Oh, I didn't put more water in there. That's not going to be so good. So there's a little metallic, or sometimes there's a little sparkle. So don't be afraid to work with your dirty water. All right, my apologies. I am going to need some water, and I've got nothing that I'm drinking that I can pour into this cup. So I'll be just a second. I'll be right back. Whoopsie daisy. All right, so now I've got water in my cup. And I'll just kind of show you what I came to in my process. And I just used a big old flat brush like this when I went around my edge and painted, and then I painted in. And by painting around the edge, it brought a barrier that my paint wouldn't keep running to the other side. So I did that on all of these. Okay, so now it's time to pick some colors, and I'm inclined to go with the same colors all the time, so I'm going to try to go with different colors. So let's get out my paints. I'm going to see if I can get them in the camera. You can see a little bit of it, so I'm not going to be using this brush anymore. This one is I think it's called a Chinese brush. Can you see? It's got that interesting, but it doesn't say what number it is. So here's kind of the tip, but it's got kind of a jagged edge to it. And I like it because it's going to help me be loose and imperfect. So I'm just dipping this brush now into the water. And since you can see pink, I'm going to throw pink. The other thing I learned is because when I'm real tight, I haven't loosened up, I wanted to paint my leaves and my vines first and then paint my flowers. And the looser I get, I'd rather let my flowers live and then paint my leaves around where they live. All right, so I'm going to start up here because I want a little bit of a flower here. I'm going to hold my brush way back. I'm just going to lay my brush down. Just see what this paintbrush will do and see, do I see a flower there? Now I'm going to lay it the other direction. That looks like a flower to me. So let's do that again. I'm going to get some of my bright pink. And this one's kind of facing this way, so I'm going to try to go this way now. And if the paintbrush doesn't agree with me, I'll go with what the paintbrush says. And sometimes based on placement and size, I can get a bud in there. Sometimes I don't. But let's try for a bud here. So this one's not completely open, but I don't care for little petals peeking out there. So while it's still a little wet, I'm going to throw another color in there for interest. So let's see. I could do a little orange, see if we can make a little coral out of it. So I'm just dabbing some on my brush and just dabbing it around, see what, let the paint blend. Now because this was a bud, I thought I'd go up and down just to kind of help give myself an image of this bud. And I've just dried my brush, so I'm going to try to pull a little bit of that out. And I'll do the same here. Let's pull a little out for highlights. Add a little bit more water now. Go grab some of that orange again. Just throw it in a couple places. So that's my beginning to this one. So I'm going to set it aside and let it be drying, and I'm going to move on to another color. Okay, so let's stay with the warms for right now, and let's go with some yellow. So I felt like a bud this time. Let's put a big flower here. So I don't want it to look like I painted a flower, so I'm just kind of laying my brush in different directions to see if the paint by itself will make things that look like petals. And then we can make one over here that's kind of going off the page. Again, let's turn it upside down. This one's looking pretty much like a blob. That's okay. All right, let's add some color to this one. Let's add, this is a little bit darker yellow. I don't know if that's going to make a big enough contrast. Doesn't seem like it. But I never sweat it because as it dries, it's going to change up a little bit too. And the other thing with flowers, have you ever noticed, I'm going to put just a little bit of green right here. But sometimes, as it's blooming, you can see some green in the flower. All right. This one's kind of low, so I'm sure I'm going to bring a leaf up there too, but I'll let this guy dry for a little bit. Let's do it again. I don't grab red very often, so I'm going to stick in the warms and move to a red now. It's very bold, but red can be pretty too. All right, that looks like a flower to me. So again, just rolling the brush, turning it in different directions. And as I start to see something, maybe I'll encourage that. Like I see this going this way. Maybe that needs to be a little bigger. So I'm just gonna let it run a little bit. And sometimes, so see how I've got that jagged edge? Then I'll just take my brush on the top here and just kind of help it feel like that flower. So I stick with 3s on this size that I'm working on because these bookmarks are pretty small. Like I said, 2.5 by 8. All right, let's move to a blue. So I'm going to start with the teal color. And I'll do it again over here. And maybe a baby down here. All right, these definitely need a little bit more color in them. So I'm gonna drop a darker blue, see how they blend up. Ooh, I just got splatter, which I love. All right, we're starting to see what flowers might be there. This looks like a little bit too abrupt for me right here, so I'm just gonna dab it, see if it can loosen up a little bit. All right, let's set that aside and go to our last one. Looks like I need to do purple. Let's start with the little one at top if I can. Okay, there's a baby. Just kind of a half moon that way. Come up the top there. Change it down like there's a petal or two going downward. I love it. Let's do another one. This is a beautiful purple. I wish I knew where it was from. So see, I'm on the last one, and this is my favorite. So you might want to warm up first and then start making them. But I mean, I'm going to be fine with every one of these. But I just found my groove on about the 8th. Oh, wait, I got 2 more under here. Oh, I got way more. All right, let's see if I'm true to my word and I stay relaxed. All right, so now I've learned a composition I like. So I'm going to try to start with a little bud at the top. We haven't done anything orange, so let's start with orange. So I like this composition. There's a little bud here, a little splatter. And then this one went this way with a little half moon. A little bit on top there. Okay. And then I did one more down at the bottom here. I did the same thing. I did kind of just a half moon. Came around the top. And then a little bit off to the side, like these are the petals living down here. Let me pull this purple one back. It's beautiful and it's got some color variant, but I'm gonna go ahead and throw, while it's still a little damp, let's throw some opera pink in there to see what that does when it starts to blend. All right, gotta carefully set that over to dry. Oh, that was opera pink. I could put that into this orange. Just kind of fun to see as it dries and moves around what happens with it. All right, dry, dry, dry. Now I'm down to my last two. So let's go with a purer blue because I went with that kind of the teal. And let's stick with that same thing. So I'm just going to see if I can get a little bud up here. Oh, it turned into a bigger flower because I didn't like my bud. Which is fine. Okay. Okay. Hopefully those will look like flowers. I'm going to throw some teal on top of this blue now, but I'm letting the blue be the dominant color. And that seems a little concentrated, so I'm just going to take some of that off there. There we go. Last one. Let's see, what color haven't I done? Yellow, red. Let's do pinkier pink. I love pink. I got some splashes up there, which is fine. All right, there's my bud. Let's go that way. See how the bristles start to break apart? Need some more water on my brush. I like that little swirl there. Let's see if we can build the flower from there. It can be going off the page there a little bit. All right. Let's add something in here. I think I'll throw a little bit of this kind of a rosy red. It's feeling very Valentine-ish to me. Okay. So that's my blobs for flowers. So let's pull out one of the early ones, see if I can start adding the greenery. We'll set these all aside to keep doing their drying. Let's see, I think my first one might have been this guy. I think this is called Underwater Green. Can you see how empty this one is compared to all my other colors? I love it. I love it for painting flowers. Okay, one of the things I like to do is when it's still a little damp, let some of the green bleed up into my flower. So I think it's really weird, but I think this one's got to be coming this way. So I'm just going to bring it off the page here. But if the paint below is still damp, then they'll kind of run together a little bit. I feel like that's kind of a blending, letting nature blend the colors. So I'm not going to touch this green to that flower, but I'm going to imagine that line continuing and then finish painting it downward. Okay, so now I'm going to put some leaves in there if I can. The other thing I like to do is throw a little bit of green outside of the where it connects to the flower itself. And I may not be able to get a bunch of leaves on here just because of the size of the bookmark. I'm not going to force one. Just kind of going around the edge of that. Hopefully the eye will finish off that leaf. And I'm going to take the very tip here and see if I can make it not quite so pointy. And I think I might be able to do a little one over there. So I want it to go off the edge. So I'm going to turn this way so that I can bring my brush off the edge of this paper. So we can imagine that it keeps going. I think that's enough green for that one. So now that's got to dry a little bit. I kind of want just a little stem here. Maybe there's another flower up there we just can't see. So I'm going to let that one dry. I'll bring my yellow one in. I'm going to look up and see if you guys are talking to me. Welcome. Thanks for watching along. I have 8 of these to do to finish up a project, and I thought, why not come on and paint with you guys? The other thing that I did, I experimented painting snowmen. So you'll have to let me know if you'd be interested in doing some snowmen watercolor little projects. See, look at that, was still damp. See how that bled up in there? Isn't that so pretty? Not going to touch that flower. I'm going to make this one go completely off the page here, and this one too. If it's taken over too much, oh, I had a paper towel. There we go. Hi, Julie. I just took a little bit of that green away on top of that yellow, but I like the blending. So let's see if this is damp enough to blend up in here. I think it's pretty dry, but so if not, it's just, you know, my hands bringing some green up in there. Same thing here. And because we're so tight, and this is a bookmark, again, I'm going to go off the page. So I'm going to start with my tip here. I'm going to flatten out my brush, kind of rub back and forth, and just come right off the page. So that there's a leaf finishing up over there, and our eye will imagine the rest of it. And I've got nice room up here, so I'm going to take another branch, just a little bit of a stem, and then I'll make a leaf here. And see if I can take my brush, mash it back and forth, and bring it back to a tip. So those look completely different. I probably should have turned my page. So you got a little twig of leaves at the top there. That's really wanting to bleed up in there. Stop it. I don't want all of that. Okay. So we'll let these guys dry. It certainly is a series of layers. Do you guys love that green as much as I do? So this one's going to go, I'm going to take it up and in, and then there's my stem, up and in, my stem, up and in, and there's my stem. So I'm going to take my point. I've got room now, so I'm going to take my point, smash my brush down, kind of wiggle it back and forth, and twist a little bit and lift up. Kind of letting the brush do the work for me to create this. Let's see if we can sneak one in here. Very tip, just press down, slowly lift up to that tip again and join it. Now that I got that tip there, I'm going to take a little bit down here. Because, you know, we have that greenery underneath our flowers. And I think it's nice to try to get flowers going in a few different directions. I needed a little bit more water there. This one's going to go completely off the page. All right, that's done. Now let's move to the next one. Here we go. So let's see what I have good in my brush. See if that's got any movement. A little bit maybe. Here's my little bud. I think I can put a flower over here. See how I just smashed it down and twist and lift up? Got a nice big leaf here. Let's tip, smash down, wiggle it a little bit, twist, and lift up. Let's do one over here at the very tip. I think this one's looking at me straight on, so I'm not going to go up into the flower with green. But I did make it a little bit thicker stem once it reached the flower by accident, but I think that looks kind of like what nature does. Hello, Dawn. I am painting bookmarks. Here's some of my done ones. Can you kind of see? So here's some of them that are done. I have to put my little, I don't know, tassels on them. And then here's some with my tassels. And to protect it, in case you spill coffee or you splatter something on it, I have rubbed on wax on all of them and then buffed it off. So it gives it kind of a seal. And that's this stuff here, guys. Dorland's Wax Medium. So if you want to protect your watercolor, you can use that. All right, let's see what we can do with this one, because that's kind of run into that one. I'm going to start at the bottom here. I don't know why, but I absolutely love this green. Okay, this one's really wet. Yep, that's bleeding. I'm gonna have to douse that. Hang on a sec. Just too wet. We can let the rest of that dry. I like blended color. I think it looks artsy when I'm not the one who is artsy. All right, let's see what we can do for leaves. Use a little bit more color on that brush. I think we're gonna need a little branch coming out here. And let's put the tip of a leaf right there. It's not perfect, but I like it, so I'm going to leave it alone. Let it dry. Okay. So my process the first time when I wasn't relaxed was I painted on all my vines first and then added flowers to them. And as I relaxed and loosened up a little bit, I started putting on my flower blobs and then built my greenery around that. So I found that was a better process for me. And I do like to throw some green up into the flower if it makes visual sense. Imperfect leaves are just fine. Wiggle, 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 squiggle, squiggle, and up. Let's do a big one here. Point, wiggle, 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 squiggle, and up. And you can have like a baby leaf start and they're not all perfectly symmetrical. All right, let that dry a little bit. Okay, here's a blue one. I definitely have to order some more of that green paint. Let's see, the stem can go here. And where's this one looking? I think that way. Maybe we can make it look this way. Oh, that's a weird chain. Weird. Well, it's the way nature built it, so let's go. Let's go with it. So the other thing is kind of practice looking at your blobs. Do you see a flower? Do you see where it's going? All right, let's see if I can add a little leaf down here. So we can come from this direction and out off the bookmark. And I need a little bit more water. I'm going to turn because I want to come up here and add one. So at my point, smash it down, wiggle, wiggle, lift up to the point. All right, so there's that set, right side up. Can you kind of see how the direction now of how I thought the blobs could go? Okay, I think this might be my last one to do the greenery. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, this is number 8. Let's dip my paintbrush in the water. This one's a little damp up here, so we should be able to see some blending. Pretty. Let's put this one over here. We'll come that way. And this one, I think they're gonna all be coming that way. All right. It's not how I would picture it, but it's how the paint landed. So we go with what the paint tells us. It's much better than me having to have the pressure to design it. I think we can throw one more leaf up at the top. Bring that down. All right, I was trying to decide if I could throw one there, but I can't comfortably without ruining it, so I just leave it alone. But I could make that just a little wider, like that's the stem coming up to the flower. All right, that's it for that one. Oop, look at this. It's really bleeding in, so I'm just going to douse that, which kind of gives it a nice little highlight. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, we have all 8. So now here's the next thing I do. I've got this luscious gold that I'm going to very imperfectly paint a gold box. Doesn't have to follow the outline of my background that I painted. Just very lightly, trying to stay loose. I didn't paint over my flower or my leaf. I'm going to try not to do the same thing down here. Just try to catch a couple of blank spots. And I need to let that dry. We'll come back with some pen work. This is a time I can, let me put a little bit more water on, grab some of this beautiful gold. This is a time I can splatter. So we'll get some gold splatter. And the other thing I do is take a little bit of gold, kind of watery down, and I'll throw some gold highlights in my flowers because I like some glitz. All right, this definitely has to dry, but can you get an idea of where it's going? Okay, we'll set it to dry. Here's this guy. We'll do the same thing. I'm not hung up on like that that background had bled out. I just go right over top of that. And don't be afraid to turn your work, what you're working on, so that your hands don't have to turn cockeyed. And by working with this imperfect brush, it helps me stay loose and relaxed. And it'll dry even more shimmery. But while I've got some on my brush, just a few places where maybe the sunshine might be hitting it. So we'll dry with a little bit of shimmer. And then, of course, splatter. All right, let it dry. Let's do this red guy. By the time I do maybe one more, the first one should be dry, that I can show you my next steps. I almost gave up on this project because it just felt too, I don't know, homemade, or I don't know. I guess not to the standard that I would want to give to friends. But as with anything in art, if you just keep, whoops, I talked and didn't finish my process. I think that's got a little too much paint on it, so I'm going to do my splatter on that. I'll go back and get a little water with it. See if I can just throw a little shimmer here and there on my flowers. So as I was saying, is with anything else artsy or crafty, if you just keep at it. Yeah, I hope so, Dawn. For the same money that I can invest, you know, to justify this group of ladies, you know, all I'd be able to get them is maybe a thing of lotion through Bath and Body Works or something like that. And so I thought, why not try some bookmarks? Since I've already got the paper in this direction, I'm going to come up this side. And then I'll turn it and do my tops and my bottoms. All right, this is very yellow. Thank you, Dawn. I think so. I hope they like it. Okay, let's do my outside. With all your artwork, if you paint, you should put your name on it. So I did sign these little bookmarks. There's a scrap piece of paper there. Whew. That could mess up some lines. So if you missed it, all of these backgrounds that you see here, I prefer a neutral background, and I created these using my dirty water. So I just pulled out my dirty water and painted my backgrounds. which I liked the best of all of my backgrounds. All right, let's do another one. And then I can finish these on my own time and I can show you the next step. You know what? I'm talking and not doing. He needs splatter. And he needs watered down shimmer a couple places. All right. Let's do it again. I'm gonna have to see if I can buy some more of this gold. All right, I'll turn it and go back down to my bottom. Okay, splatter, which I have splatter everywhere now. Need it to be a little watered down because I don't want so much pigment on my brush when I just want to add a little shimmer here and there to my flowers. Because to me, that's just, it feels like sunshine's hitting them. All right. Bring this guy. Do you have any questions about what we're doing tonight? I'm happy to answer, talk along. Otherwise, I'll just keep telling you what I'm doing. I did not just pull out my paints and go, this is exactly what I'm going to do. It was a process of things I liked and didn't like, or getting to a point that said I like it, but it's not enough. And that's when I did the gold paint edge around it. All right. Splatter, splatter. And set it aside. All right, this one needs it. Whew, my space heater. How did you do the background? I used my dirty paint water. And I used a big brush like this, and I just got it wet, and I started around the edge and painted a box. And by painting that box, it creates a barrier where the water is not going to ooze past that line. And then I just kind of doused it and filled it in with a few brush strokes. It was a lot of water. It took a little bit for that to dry. But the dirty water was my favorite color of background. Great question, Dawn. Any other questions out there? I love talking and sharing. All right. Come splatter. Get it a little bit wetter. Add some shimmer in a couple places. Okay. That one, let's see, I'm looking to see if there's any that I missed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we're done. So let's find the earlier ones and I'll do some pen work. Here's this one. And I've got a black pen and a white pen. Oh, one other thing. Hang on a minute. Let's see. I think I'm going to go, this is just a flat brush here. See it? It's probably a 1/2 inch. Pretty small. One of these over here is called Payne's Gray. I think it's this one. Payne's Gray is like a blue gray. This is Dina Wakely's paper. It's her heavyweight watercolor. So I can't see up here. These aren't centers, but here I can throw a little shadow of where that middle is of the flower. Because then I can throw some stamens out there when it gets dry with my pen. All right, and then here's something else I did kind of fancy, way fancier than I've been self-trained. But I've just watered down that Payne's Gray, and I'm adding a little bit like, oh my gosh, like I'm adding some shadowing. I just think that it gave it a little bit more depth. Very watered down. Just a little bit of shadows. So I'm going under things. And let's see, this is how it dries. You see those little lines? That's where I added my shadow. So again, I don't get hung up on where the light source is, really. And I don't like this brush, so I'm gonna move this one. It's got a slight angle. I don't think that matters, but it's just a little smaller. And these are pretty dainty. So I just try it, and if I don't like it, I move on to another paintbrush. So here's definitely a center area. So I'm gonna add some dark there. I love Payne's Gray for that. See down here, this I can definitely see as the center. So I'm just going to add some Payne's Gray there. I'm going to water it down a lot. Let's see if I can get that in the camera here. And I'm going to give myself a hint of some shadows. All right, there's my shadow on that one. So let's see if we can find centers in this guy. So it's just what you're, there's no right or wrong. This was a blob of paint. So right here where I left that little spot, I'm going to make that the center of my flower. Whoops, I don't want it so watered down. Let's see here, is there one, or is it facing that way? I think we can make that, we can bring that around. So let's make that our center. And that's going to be a bud, so it doesn't need a center. Okay, water it down and just add a little bit of hint that might be shadows. Very imperfect, right? I'm just kind of scrubbing it, scribbling. It's not a paintbrush, it's a scribble. Or a daubing. All right, do the same thing. So it's just easier to come back and do your centers, because your eye starts to get practiced. So I think this is a whole flower facing that way. I guess we could maybe give a hint of something dark there. There's no right or wrong. Okay, I'm just daubing in some shadow. So any interest in doing a demo with those snowmen that I painted the other day? Would anybody like to, any interest in painting those? We could all cut a piece of 5x7. Those frames are very inexpensive if you wanted to throw it in a frame. I don't think there's a center on any one of these guys. I see them all facing that way. So I'm just going to come back now with some shadow. All right, that's good enough for me. Okay, so this guy we can put a center in there. Do that like that. And there might be a hint there. So I'm just daubing the brush where there might be a hint. Nothing up there. Shadow time. And I'm not doing everything. I don't want it to look contrived. Very abstract. Again, no centers on this one, which is just fine. So let's see, there might be a shadow here because it's kind of under that leaf. Same thing down here. Same thing over here. Down here could be a shadow under this one. Under here a little bit. I think that's enough shadow for me. If the sun were hitting, it would be hitting here, but it would be shadowing down here. Okay, here's this guy. So we definitely do have a center right here. We can add the hint of where that flower is. And we could make this a, you know, like this is coming around. This could be the center up here. Like that. I'm just going to throw some shadow in here. All right, I think that's enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we've done all of our centers and our shadows. Okay, and that's a yes about snowmen. I will get out some paper. Cut your 5x7s, and I won't do it tonight, but we will do it soon. All right, so now I'm going to use my black fine tip. This is called a, I guess the name of it must be on the lid. Let me find the lid. This is a good one. Lindsay gave me this pen. It's fantastic. It's called Uniball Air. So I like this black pen. And to pull this out, I don't want the pressure of having to draw a perfectly solid line, so I just do kind of dashes. It's imperfect for sure. And I come back a second time, just like I do when I'm crafting, because one line looks messy, which it is, but two messy lines looks artistic. And then see where that was kind of yucky? I'm going to do this. Like I sewed it on, like I'm very artistic. All right, and it looks like I need one down here to even that out. So that's what I do to my border, nothing else, just that. I did think about inking my edges, but I thought I'm gonna leave it raw, the watercolor cut. So now I'm going to start something safe and go around my leaves and then start to define. Where do I see a petal maybe? Sometimes where these lines dry, it helps me see a petal. So I'm not outlining exactly where the paint was. I'm not even doing whole lines. Sometimes they're broken lines. I want them to be loose like the watercolor is. Those snowmen were easy to do. We can all do them. Okay, this is still a little wet around here, but I think I can still get some of it done. Let's see, where do I see? I see it kind of coming out like that. You got to stay real loose. Don't get hung up. Because even if I mess up, it's still going to look like a flower. I think I got them all. When this is dry, I'll come back with white. Okay, so let's make a pile that's done with the pen work. I don't mind doing little squigglies, kind of a scribble. Okay, this one's facing that way. That's probably, let's see, I think I'm going to define this one a little bit. Okay. This is such a rich color, this purple. And sometimes I do a line beyond the paint, just helps keep it that loose feel. Scribbly. Oop, didn't get this guy. Up and out. Around. Okay. So you get the idea? Oh, you know what I haven't been doing? Which I guess it's okay. You don't need to see me do this. I can go back. But I do think it helps bring it all together. Do you like the black line around it? I think it helps you see the gold better. All right, let's do some more. That's still a little damp, so that ink will kind of blend in. Everything doesn't have to be outlined. Your eye will finish the idea. Okay, I think I'll wait for some white for the rest of that. I'll come back and do my outlines. I kind of like this jagged, so I'm just going to give it a, let it just be like 3 petals showing there. Isn't that cute? Some of them turn out better than others, but it's not me. It's the way the paint did whatever it did. So my whole point is let the paint do the talking. This one's a little too wet. Let's see what we can do with this yellow. Yellow's a little challenging. I should probably invest in something that's more like, I don't know, like a gray pen. I just don't like it to overpower my yellow. So I try to go real light and limited with my outline. All right, I'm gonna need to let the last one dry. So you get the idea. Thanks for joining along with me. Get my wet paint out of the way. I think you're supposed to let your paints dry open before you close the lid. So I will also come back and add white to these, and then I'll throw on my tassels, and I'll wax all of these so that they've got a protective coating. There, I think you can see most of them. Yeah, I thought so too. And I'll tell you, if you're looking for a color, you can water down black, but I love Payne's gray, that blue gray. All right, well, that's everything I have for you tonight. Thanks for watching along as I showed you the process. And I'm going to put this back in the camera, if I can find it here. So if you're looking and you want a protective sealant, this Dorland's Wax Medium, that's what I used. And then this was the nice black pen that I used. Uniball Air. All right. Well, you guys get back to your evening. Happy holidays. Keep an eye out. Each week I'm going to send a link to a free class. You just have to request to join and I'll get you in there. Just my gift for the holiday season. Julie, nice to see you here. Diana, thank you so much. Dawn, glad you could join along. All right, I'm going to go get something, a beverage to drink. Probably not caffeine anymore tonight. And I'll see you the next time. Bye, Jane. Bye, everybody.